Welcome back to Hardball. The Clinton-Bush relationship has evolved over the years. After leaving the White House, Presidents Clinton and George H.W. Bush joined together on a variety of charitable causes, forming a strong friendship. And when George W. Bush joined the ex-president's club, he and Bill also bonded.
We were laughing about going to restaurants and having to spend our time taking selfies with people.
At least they're still asking, you know.
That's right.
George W. Bush even told a reporter recently he obviously keeps his counsel on Hillary, but I like to needle him about how he'd be an interesting first spouse. And tonight, the pair addressed their inaugural joint leadership program for scholars in Dallas. But in the midst of all this dynastic goodwill, the battle is heating up between Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton. Blood is thicker than water. So the question is, can this bromance survive the 2016 election? I'm joined now by MSNBC political reporter Kasie, who was at the event with Bill Clinton and George W. Bush tonight in Dallas. Also with us is NBC presidential historian Michael Beschloss. So, Kasie, to you first. You were inside inaugural event. These two former presidents, one Democrat, one Republican, both very close observers of 2016. Set the scene for us. What was happening in there tonight?
Well, Steve, the two leaders are actually still on stage talking. They had just started their event when I came out here to talk to you. But what we caught in the beginning was a very, very warm relationship on display. Bush started off the conversation by joking that both he and Clinton had grown long in the tooth. Bill Clinton was quick to correct him that this is the 1 month of the year when he's actually a year younger on paper than former President Bush. So you had some very clearly this friendship. You could really see it coming out. But, you know, I will say, Steve, some of the policy differences that underscore their obviously different political parties and this potentially looming clash in 2016 were also on display. Bill Clinton made a reference to the fact that George W. Bush tried to pass comprehensive immigration reform, put his arm on President Bush when he said that. Bush didn't totally respond necessarily either way. They also talked a little bit about how they made decisions, and Bill Clinton talked about how he would sometimes ask his advisors if they were about to bomb a country, whether he could kill them tomorrow. That was how he put it. And George W. Bush came back and said, you know, when I was in the Oval Office, the circumstances were such that I had to decide decisively and make quick decisions. That's a direct quote. We obviously remember George Bush for saying those types of things when he was in the Oval Office. So I think you had a really, and you still are seeing a very interesting combination of warmth and friendship, along with some very real differences in worldview, Steve.
Well, so Michael Beschloss, I think back sort of historically to the roots of this relationship. I think back to the 2000 campaign, and I can remember George W. Bush running in 2000. The slogan was, we're going to restore honor and integrity to the White House. Clear shot at Bill Clinton. That was the campaign where George Bush Sr. came out in the middle of it, and he basically gave Bill Clinton an ultimatum, and he said, look, I'm going to give you a month to stop talking about my son. Otherwise, I'll tell the world what I think of you as a man. 15 years later, we're in a very different place in this relationship.
Yeah, and that's what's so nice about this because, you know, in 2000, whoever would have imagined that not only George W. Bush, but even more than that, George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton would be as close friends as they are today, dating back to that tough campaign in 1992.
And what is it that creates a bond? Is it something, do you think, about? I mean, we've seen this. I guess the example would be Carter and Ford. They kind of bonded. Is there something about the nature of the presidency, how closed off you are in the White House for 8 years, that creates a bond that otherwise couldn't be there?
I think that's right. It's an experience that very few people have and they have in common. You know, even going all the way back to John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, who were these huge political enemies, and Jefferson defeated Adams, who went bitterly back to Massachusetts. They revived their relationship in this famous correspondence. So, you know, in these days, we hear so much about how tough politics is, presidential level, and also in Washington. It is so nice to see relationships between former presidents like Clinton and Bush, and also Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford, who also ran against each other, who became extremely close friends.
Well, but Kasie, let me just quickly ask you to play this out a little bit. If a year from now we're talking about Hillary Clinton, the Democratic nominee, Jeb Bush, the Republican nominee, how much of this goodwill survives something like that?
Right.
I mean, Steve, you know as well as I do, and anyone else who's watched the Clintons in public life, to know that they don't exactly take hits lightly necessarily. They tend to have long memories. So I think that if this campaign gets really nasty and goes to questions of character, then, all bets might be off. But I do think that what you were discussing before is really the key part of this here. I mean, the George W. Bush, Bill Clinton relationship started when George W. Bush was still in office. Bill Clinton has talked about how W. Bush would call him just to talk politics. And that is something that, they're the only two people with seats at that table. And I think that's also something that distinguishes Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton from many of the other people in this field. And I think it's something that's going to be an advantage for both of them as they go forward, and that potentially is going to give them a greater understanding. They've both been much, much closer to somebody who's actually been in the Oval Office for an extended period of time than any of these other candidates.
All right. And again, those are live pictures we've been showing you of those two former presidents on stage in Dallas. A nice scene for now. Let's see how long it lasts. Until then,
Right.
Kasie Hunt, Michael Beschloss, appreciate you both joining us right now. And up